Two perspectives, one goal. On one side, we've got Courtney Hurley, a three-time Olympian and team bronze medalist who's now coaching and building fencers in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And on the other, we have Chris Ferrara, assistant head of school and upper school director, who's a liberal arts educator and thinks deeply about how teens learn, train, and grow. Welcome back to First to 15. I'm Brian Wendell. Today, we've got a couple of guests for you. We're going to start with Courtney's journey and the coaching lens. Then we'll weave in Chris's view on what actually works for student athletes, and then use their new program at Menaul School in partnership with Duke City Fencing as kind of a case study for balancing academics and high-level training. So, hey, Courtney and Chris, let's dive in.
Hello. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you both. And you're in the same spot. Sometimes when we have two guests, they're spread out, but it's great to have everybody in the room. So Courtney, like, obviously you've got such a legendary story in fencing and are a household name in the fencing community. But for you, when did fencing become like more than just an activity, but like part of who you are in a sense, and something that has, that you've now been able to weave into your post-competitive career?
Well, fencing has always been like who I am. Wasn't much, transition was tough when I was thinking of transitioning out of fencing. I was like, what do I
Yeah.
do? Do this. But flowing into coaching just made way more sense. Because again, I so much fencing knowledge and it was who I am for so many years. And so to pass it on just was so easy and necessary. I mean, I have so much knowledge to not pass it on or be, criminal. So it was a very easy transition from athlete to coach and mentor. So yeah.
And I got to say, it helps with when you have the name recognition that you do as well, because you come with such a great track record that when someone sees, Courtney Hurley, they know, okay, she knows what she's talking about, which is nice, and it brings a lot of that credibility. So Chris, you're an educator who kind of champions this broad liberal arts foundation. So what habits from that approach can set student athletes up to thrive, both in sports, specifically fencing, but also in academics? Like, how do you use that broad foundation that Menaul School and others are so great at to help student athletes succeed both on and off of the playing surface?
I think some of the things that we understand about education is that a lot of the things that we do, we have understood that they work for a long time, and that everybody's always trying to kind of adjust the formula. I guess in Menaul, we kind of say the formula doesn't really need a ton of adjustment. We just need to do it really well, and that's teaching kids how to think, not what to think. Having a broad base of knowledge. And this is something that society is really struggling with right now. We're seeing this with AR. We're seeing this with just how prepared people are, not just to go out into the world and get that first job, but to actually be informed members of society, citizens, and who are going to use their education to make meaningful connections with how the world works. When it comes to liberal arts education, it's just that they're hitting everything. They're hitting English, history, mathematics, science, and that we want to do it all well to set these kids up to really know what they're wanting to do in the future. And that's where athletics is a huge part of that as well. We are a pretty traditional school in that sense. And so we want our kids to be scholar athletes. And so fencing is an incredible opportunity. It's it's mental chess, right? Or physical chess. We do mental chess with the actual chess club.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels.
Yeah, but we want kids to have that broad experience. That's what it's all about. We want them to be able to be on the fencing team, but also on the basketball team, but also learning how to maximize their education so that they can go to whatever college that they want to go to. So we're pretty traditional in a lot of senses like that. We're really not a high tech school. We're tech skeptical. So there's a ton I could talk about in terms of I want to focus on the fencing, which is an incredible way for kids to get active. It's an incredible way for kids to plan out where they want to go to college. To their
Mhm.
real strategic element to using fencing to get into some incredible schools, and that's an important part for any college prep school. So we want to maximize our kids' ability to go where they want to go with.
Yeah, I want to dive into that also throughout our conversation. But Courtney, let's bring in you here. What was your experience as a, maybe you didn't even call yourself this, but a scholar athlete growing up, and then eventually you went to Notre Dame, which obviously a great school, great fencing program. But what was your experience like? You know, trying to juggle all of these different things, and do you feel like you had a broad base of knowledge entering Notre Dame?
So, yeah, I didn't have a normal upbringing. uh, but I got incredibly lucky with the school that I went to. They were incredibly lenient of traveling and going to places and just making up the work when I got back. People, I mean, honestly, would hardly see me in high
Hmm.
school. I went so much to World Cups, and like most schools are not okay with that. Like most schools. So I got, again, incredibly lucky. They were super supportive of my family. And that's a huge thing of the school being, it also university, not just high school, but university being supportive of travel. They're usually not super supportive of fencing. So I had an unusual high school experience, but I had good grades and I had, good test scores. And so I was able to go get accepted to University of Notre Dame. And that was something we also never really thought we would do. Sorry, fencing. We thought we would, just go to any school, just a normal person. But then we didn't realize we had a capability of, we also didn't have that much knowledge. And now we have more knowledge of like fencing at universities, and US Science really put sports, more information about that. But back when there was not that much information, like I never even got recruited until like the last second. People are like, "Oh, you wanna go to university?" So it was a much different world back then. Not much information, and um, but at University of Notre Dame, they were very, very supportive. And a really great program there, so they were supportive of my travel, and so I got lucky. But like most people
Yeah.
don't have that luckiness, or being able to travel and have support behind you from all different angles. And that's a big reason why I was successful. So I don't know. That is a big factor here that, and they know about the fencing, they know what it takes. We've had many conversations of what fencing, the high level takes, how much travel, how much time, commitment. And so they're, willing to be utilized of work there.
I would add on being in a Western school. Anybody who deals with athletics in a Western school, the travel here compared to where I grew up in New York.
Hmm.
Here, you regularly get on the bus every week for 6 to 8 hours one way to go play a game.
Hmm.
So we've always had that built into our culture that to support student athletes, academics needs to be flexible. And
Yeah.
the areas where technology really does make that effective is with our learning management system, Canvas. They can access that content while they're gone. Keep keep up with things as much as possible, and that's really what the goal is. That we can support our athletes to go do these things that are going to make them a success.
Yeah, and a challenge with that, it occurs to me, is when you are traveling for sports, you have to be, as a teenager, you have to have that kind of self motivation, because you don't have a teacher over your shoulder saying, "Hey, this assignment is due at the end of class here." You aren't in the classroom sometimes to have that. So, what is your philosophy to teaching that time management, that responsibility, that honestly is a lesson that's going to stay with that student well beyond when they graduate from your program?
You know, we know that a lot of things that maybe my generation and older generations took for granted, they're more difficult for kids now. There are some things pulling in the different directions. If you look at, say, the recidivism rate for like lack of attendance, it's really high. I think in most school districts now, approximately 20 to 30% of kids are chronically absent. One of the cores of our academic program at Menaul School is this idea of high challenge, high support. We know that some of the things that kids struggle with, they need more concrete and clear support to accomplish that. We do have to help them a little bit more with things that we would consider scheduling, keeping tasks on track. We are strict with making sure that things are due because we think that teaches them the right skills. But we have people, academic advisors, homeroom teachers who are really going to reach out and make sure that kids are not getting off track. We really do manage that a lot more carefully than certainly I experienced growing up as a kid. Where if you were late or didn't turn something in, well, too bad. We really try to make sure that kids have a great deal more support so that they can get what they need. Because we're asking them to deal with hard.
Mm-hmm. And Courtney, what do you see as your role there in supporting the whole person and making sure that, you know, they're succeeding in all the different ways that they want?
Yeah, so I definitely noticed that. I mean, this generation, I don't know if it's all generation, but I know that's my first generation of coaching.
Mm-hmm.
That they have most of these kids have like so many things going on. And that's one thing that's tough is to, okay, let's, focus on one thing here and, put priorities and what's more important. I'm very lenient of understanding that there's other things to life and something not like, how I'm not, it's not me. A lot of parents, a lot of coaches have that struggle of like, okay, it's not, about me. It's not them. What's important to you. Other people is not what's important to you. But also, making sure that if it, is important, if it is their priority, then we have the right road to go down and what it takes to what they want to achieve and what they want to achieve.
So let's dive a little bit more into like the realities of juggling all these different priorities. So can you give us like a typical week for someone who is like a college bound student at Menaul? Like, what is the athletic schedule? What type of schoolwork schedule do they have? When do they actually have time to sleep? Things like that. Like, what does a week look like? And either of you could answer that.
Very well, start. So I mean, from the academic side and the extracurricular, if I'm looking at a college-bound student, maybe somewhere around 10th or 11th grade,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere between hopefully 2 to 5 AP classes each semester. Those are challenging courses. That's college level work.
Yeah.
Is that what the college would need to see to say, yes, you are checking the box for rigor? We are looking at extracurriculars and not just in the athletic side, but they've got to be on some kind of a club. They've got to be not just in a club with developing a leadership experience. So yeah, you want to be in Mali UN, but you want to be developing towards Mali UN presidency, something where you really show leadership because this is what colleges need to see. In addition to that, if we're imagining approximately an hour of homework per class every night for a lot of those challenging courses, we're looking at somewhere between, 2 to 3 hours of homework on an average evening. Athletics, I mean, we'll talk about how we incorporate fencing into the structure of the day, which really does help that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm on the basketball team, that's 2 hours after school. If I'm on the football team, 2 hours after school. So we know that to get into these competitive environments, they are asking kids to be successful in like 11 separate dimensions.
Yeah.
Be volunteering, they've got to be in leaders, they've got to be in extracurriculars, they've got to be making all these things happen. And it's more than we've ever asked them to do. It is absolutely more. So having active management of that is really key. And in terms of the fencing side,
Yeah, please, Courtney.
Yeah. But we have middle school and high school again. And the middle school trains for 70 minutes
70 minutes per day.
per day.
Yeah.
And then the high school is
85.
Yes, 85. And I combine the two at some point because I think it's good to get everyone fencing together. So it's a lot. It's their most, I think, minute class.
Yeah. So we at Menaul School, we follow a block schedule with like an 8 A B day. So most kids are taking 8 classes, but 4 on one day and then 4 the next day, and kind of flip flops. That's one of the ways we reduce the homework load, so that you're never having 8 classes of homework due like the next day. But with our fencing program, our fencers have a fencing block every single day. And so they get that guaranteed, like if I'm in high school, I get 85 minutes of time every day. And then in addition to that, after school, they can do private lessons with Courtney. We also have Duke City on our campus. So when those fencers come in the afternoons and evening, they get to battle with other people. And so really the sky is the limit for like, I'm letting these kids can be fencing. They could be fencing up to 3 hours a day easily if they really wanted to. And we've seen that development from the fencers who've only been doing it now for, they're just starting their 4th month maybe.
Yeah. So all even all kids have just started fencing in August, September. And so big transition, and it's also a cultural one that is a big one that I've been trying to change. I just came to Albuquerque last year, and so changing the culture, more competitive, and kind of opening up more opportunities with fencing instead of just having it as like a hobby. It's a culture shift that I'm in the process of doing, and we're in the process of starting at Menaul. Taking fencing to a different level. We just had our first level competition here, and one of the Menaul kids got third by 14 out of 16 kids.
Nice.
So then this is over fencing for a few months. So it's going pretty well. Yeah,
That's got to feel really, really good.
That's what the trust is in the program, is when you build an NCAA fencing schedule that is really just getting kids fencing every day with the highest level of expertise there. It's like improve really, really, really. They're gonna develop and become competitive by the time they're done.
Yeah, I mean, I see in the first few months, there was such a huge improvement. And because we're doing 5 days a week, that's, most kids are not doing classes 5 days a week, and fencing, we fence 4 days a week, but they give them a day off of video analysis. But
So it accelerates the timeline basically, right? Because, a student might be taking 1 class a week at a traditional fencing club, right? And so 5 weeks worth of progress is condensed into a single week, hypothetically, right?
Right. Yeah. Most of the big city kids, they take 2 classes a week. That's kind of the normal.
Yeah.
And that's normal for most fencing clubs. Like 2 or 3 days classes be nuts, pretty normal. But yeah, 5 days is a lot.
It's 2 days a week at the end of the day, after they've done everything, they've gone, it can be, at the end of the day is a challenging time of the day to really say, okay, I'm going to get back into like learning and activity, like again, when they're so busy.
So what, Courtney, thinking specifically about the fencing program at Menaul, where would you like to see it in, let's say, 3-5 years? If you're looking at the current trajectory of what you all have already started to grow there.
Yeah, well, I would like to see it we're on the timeline of mimicking like a university program. But what things need to happen is that we need to have not only code FA, they're, 3 different sports, so I can't really coach. I mean, I could probably coach maybe to like a very, very beginner level, but we would want to add the coach for foil and saber and have all three weapons and have, weight training a few days a week. You know, so an university type annual, that's what I'm, aiming towards so that they can be prepared for university fencing and also their own personal, goals. Doing well competition, nationally, internationally. That's the goal.
So Chris, can we talk just kind of like zooming out a little bit, and can you explain like why even incorporate athletics into the program at all? Like if someone, a real skeptic says, you're taking time out of the classroom for them to go do fencing for 70 or 85 minutes during the day. And of course, I understand the value there, but how would you explain to someone who says, couldn't they be spending that time in the library researching X, Y, or Z?
So when we look at what makes a student successful in college, this is an area where you really want to dive into the data. The number one determinant of success in university is GPA. It's, how well you do in your classes in school. The second determinant of success, it's not standardized test scores. It's not, how much you or how well you memorized some information. It's actually participation in varsity level sports. This is something that I didn't know before I came to this school and really started diving into it. What do we really need to do? I was maybe more of an academically minded person. And I would say that understanding that and seeing what a student actually has to do in terms of learning life skills, resiliency, dedication, that you set a goal and you do what's necessary to accomplish that goal. You don't give up. Those are absolutely the skills that happen in competitive level sports. And that's not necessarily the skills that happen in like an everyday English class. Those skills actually allow kids being more successful in university and then obviously in life. So with a school like Menaul, our literal mission is we educate students in mind, body, and spirit. And so that has been a core component of who we are since the beginning. And that's where the athletic piece really comes in. It's that's going to help, in your body, but obviously your mind and your spirit as well, because it's going to be that drive to be successful too. So it really is a key component, more than I had originally thought. So I've got my kids into competitive athletics because of it.
Yeah, that's super fascinating. Courtney, what was your experience like there in entering college? Entering college as somebody who had dealt with all the different things that a high level athlete has to deal with. Everything from the travel, the pressure, dealing with other people, knowing how to lose, right? Because you didn't win every bout. No athlete does. How did you incorporate those lessons, not into your fencing at Notre Dame necessarily, but into the academic side and even your life beyond graduation?
Yeah, I think what Chris was saying was absolutely true, that something, brings out all these different parts of you, like perseverance. It's a lot about perseverance. Shows in other parts of my life. If I want something, I, go and get it, and I don't stop until I get it, and I'm definitely from fencing. So this always things you learn from all these sports drives, how you interact with life. So fencing is a huge reason why I'm so successful. Getting to Notre Dame, I was definitely more of a jock. It's where my number one. It was definitely my number two, but I obviously had number one in order to do number two. So,
Mhm.
so fencing really, developed these traits that helped me through all parts of life, or school, or interviews for jobs, or and coaching. So that's develops these different kinds of traits that really helps you through life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Chris,
think,
please go ahead.
I think Courtney's selling herself short a little bit too. She has a tremendous intellect. This is someone who, when I've had her to say like, "Hey, let's write this up or let's do this thing," she just drives it through and produces like incredible content. And she's so smart and she's so well spoken. So they did a really good job. She did a really.
Yeah, y'all are lucky to have her for sure. Chris, what's the role of the parent here in a scholar athlete? Like, how can they support without being overbearing and making sure that the student, the scholar athlete, whatever term we want to use, owns the process themselves?
You know, when it comes to parenting success, it's a really hard line to walk.
Mm.
What we like to talk about is there's different styles of parenting. There's the permissive parent who says, "Hey, what you want to do, okay, whatever you want to do, that's fantastic." There's the authoritarian parent who says, "You're doing what my plan is to do, and that's what we're going to do." And then there's the authoritative parent, and it's honestly really tough. I don't have a great answer for you because one of the things that I'll say is probably 90% of the kids who get to Olympic level probably had authoritarian parents.
Mm.
Their parents who said, "You're going to wake up and you're going to practice this and you're going to do this for these years of your life," because there maybe wasn't yet developed that level of motivation. What we want in the culture that we want to develop is the authoritative. We really want to say, "Hey, I want to give you a pathway. Hey, I want to provide experts who can really guide you along that pathway." But we don't want the incredible pressure cooker of like, you've got to be the best, otherwise, you're a washout. You're not successful. Success comes from building the right habits. And you can't just flick a switch. Like, you have to build that slowly over time. Kids see that they're being successful, and that builds the sense where now they're motivated internally. They really see, okay, what I'm doing, this pathway that people are laying out for me, I see it successful. So for a kid like Sophia, who came in with, a little bit of a martial arts background, but a fencing background, but we were the guy. I don't think her parents ever came to me and said, "You've got to make Sophia develop into this kind of a fencer by this day." Really, it was about, we trust you to provide the right structure, the right supports, and that this is a place where she can be as successful as she wants to be. And she's taken all pretty far in a short time. So I guess that's what I would distill it to. Authoritative rather than authoritarian. But I'm certainly not going to say it doesn't work, because parents like, Tiger Woods' parents, Venus Williams' parents, that's how they did it.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say you can't.
Courtney, what's your perspective there as someone who made it to the very highest levels of fencing?
I would say that we're in a new generation of that authoritarian doesn't really work so well anymore. We have, a lot more resources about like mental health and I'm trying to instill, because for me again, I was lucky. My family, my parents were super supportive. They never, told me I had to do something. It was kind of, not said out loud, but it was definitely like, "Oh, you keep that thing because you're, really good." And but no one really forced me. No one held me over fire, but that was within myself. So I got, lucky again. And which really boils down to his lies, what my dad say. But there were a lot of, like successful athletes that were held over fire, saying like, you have to do this, you have to, train X amount of days, X amount of hours, and that really, doesn't lead its way mental part of sports, and so I think this generation has even like more rough, like figuring out how do we balance, working hard and working and also not burning out, not, hating what I'm doing. Um, it's a tough, it's like they're the first generation to figure this out. So it's a tough thing to balance. And that's what we're all trying to figure out, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many pressures. The kids have so many pressures. And it's like Courtney said, they are much better about advocating like, hey, maybe this is too much pressure. Maybe we need to step back. But that's why a supportive environment is what we want to build here. And that's first like Courtney to be the one to build that and say like, all right, this is how we get competitive. This is how we up our games without taking it to the level of, getting unhealthy, getting to a place where kids don't want to be in a fencing program. One of the things that I will say, I've never told you this, but I've heard this from our students. Fencing is the best part of their day. When they say, like, hey, fencing is a time where, I start out of the pressure to some degree and I get in here and I'm just being active. I'm in the moment. I'm not worried about what comes later. And so they're just really being able to be kids and being able to participate in really fun and challenging athletics with the person who supports them and is pushing them to be better without turning it into like an.
Yeah. And it has a purpose too, right? Like we've been saying, like it's fun and it's active, but there's an underlying purpose. Courtney, what do you get out of this experience? Like, obviously you're giving so much to these students, but what's enjoyable about it for you? What makes you so excited to get up and go to work every day and teach these kids?
I would say it's a new challenge for me. It's a new challenge to, I worked so hard my whole life for myself and getting myself motivated and now it's a different challenge of getting other people motivated, getting other people competitive. And so I see it as a challenge, and a very interesting challenge. And it's, it's sort of innovative, over here. So it's, really exciting and new. And I think that, when I want something, I go and get it, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. And it's got to feel good when you see some of the early results too. So early, not that it's just all about the medals, but it does show that the coaching that you're doing is having some early success and you're on such a great track.
Yeah, I think it's really fun to see like some of the kids who like turned from fencing. Like some kids were just doing it for fun, but now like I'm pushing, I'm opening up one more doors, and they're getting more excited and training more. And that kind of same slowly with Menaul. They're seeing like after the competition, because it's so different when you just train every day and don't compete, and then it's kind of probably a little boring. I think. Uh, and whenever a few Menaul kids after the competition, even though they didn't really well, they were like, "This is so exciting! Like now I want to like come and train more. I want to get better." And like it really motivates to see like when I compete, to see like what you're capable of, what other people are capable of. It gets you more hungry. And so that was really cool after that competition to see like some of them not kid like, okay, I really want to start training more. So that was really cool. I see
Yeah.
everyone get motivated more and wanting to do the sport that nerves so much more. That's very rewarding.
I love that. So Chris, for families who are looking at a school like Menaul or Menaul itself, that unique model that you all have there, how did they assess that, whether it's the right fit? Like, what's the maybe questions that they should ask either themselves or you or the the recruiter, the admissions person, to see if this is the right fit for their child?
When it comes to especially private schools, it is the game. Like that's what is what's going to make a child be successful. So every day I have conversations with potential families, potential students, and we want to understand like what are they looking for? What are their goals? And people go to private schools for a lot of different reasons. Every once in a while, and someone will come here and they'll say, yeah, what I'm really looking for is a place that, isn't going to challenge them. That's just going to let them kind of do what they want to do and just kind of slide by. And we're like, you're not really going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're looking for a student, we're looking for that mind body. We're looking for someone who really has an idea of their goals. And, for us, we're usually trying to say, okay, what's your kind of calling? What do you want to be doing? Do you have an idea of a future career? We have a lot of international kids. And for these kids, you see kind of the difference between American kids and kids from other countries, because these kids from other countries are hungry for success in a way that American students aren't always necessarily when you've grown up comfortable. And then you see someone who's like, hey, I'm a kid from Rwanda. I'm the first kid in my family who's been given the opportunity to go to college. And I know that being able to go to a really strong school, that's not just going to change my life, that's going to change the trajectory of my entire family. That is a huge thing for them. And kids like that raise the bar. So we're about 30% international there with 28 different countries. And that really motivates our kids to say, okay, it isn't enough to just kind of be like, yeah, of course I'm going to go to college and I'll slide by. What do I want to do? I don't know. Because when you have kids in there who are highly motivated, that's really the number one thing that I look for. When I'm looking for a student, what are your motivations? What do you want to accomplish? And if a kid has no motivations at all, or their motivations are all external, well, my mom and dad want me to accomplish this, or they're hoping that I do this. That's not necessarily going to set them up for success. But when a kid says, I want to be an athlete, I want to go to this college, I want to get this job, those are levers that we can pull to help guide them to be successful.
And meanwhile, that's so well said. And meanwhile, that's such a great experience for those 70% of, I guess we could call them non-international students, to share a classroom with someone from Rwanda or one of those other, dozens of countries that are represented, and it broadens their perspective as well, I have to think.
Yeah, no, for sure. Most of our international students are boarding. We do have some domestic boarders, but that's also one of the things that we're hoping is that as we bring in fencers domestically, that's one of the opportunities. Because one of the things that I fenced after college. I took it up as a hobby, but I lived in a small town with a small club, and there really weren't any opportunities. Nobody was really talking about getting competitive. Nobody was really talking about how do you do something at a higher level. It was just, yeah, this is something you do for fun. I never had a coach who was anything like Courtney's level of expertise. So one of the things that I asked her when we were talking about this is, where does that kid who has to take, an hour and a half one-way drive to get to that fencing club, how do they get there? What's that like for them, that they're dedicated, they want to be fencing, but maybe they don't have the opportunity locally? And that's where we thought, well, a school with a boarding program could really be successful for them. That they'd be able to come to a place where they can have that focus, and be able to get that expert level support thing.
Yeah, because the reality is we've got 800 fencing clubs across the country, but there are a lot of places where there's not one within an hour drive. So you have to have that dedication. And Courtney, that actually brings me to something I wanted to ask you about, which is the state of fencing in Albuquerque. I love New Mexico. I love Albuquerque, but it's not like, considered the hotbed of fencing yet, right? So it's not a fencing hotspot just yet. But where would you like to see Albuquerque and fencing in that region get to, so you can have even more competitive opportunities for your students and students who might be from other clubs in the area?
Yeah. I mean, my goals are obviously I want the best. So I'm trying to, drive kids, for one thing, just a baby steps right now, just for competing, because the kids really weren't competing here too much. So, I got 7 kids to go to this most recent NAC, and not really a huge deal. So my goals right now are getting the kids to just to open their, their whole view of competitive. And obviously I want, us to start doing well competitive, but that's going to take some time. I'm saying, especially FA, it comes very slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Or can't come slowly. So it does take some time, but I want to put City Translating and Menaul on the map. Or we think that I've already, slightly done that. So I want to put it bigger dot on the map. For Albuquerque, because you see Albuquerque, you don't think fat thing. And so that's what I want to do. Just when we think about Albuquerque, they have a good fencing team. That's definitely the goal, and get people to do well competition, like going to universities and maybe international or league world teams. Obviously, that's always the goal. And but yeah, to make Albuquerque, I know Albuquerque had a really good team, because a lot of times we say, not just in New Mexico specifically, but every city has a fencing club. Every town has some sort of level of fencing club, and but there's not. We think of, I don't want to say in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to say Moab. You only Moab of I'm sure they have fencing club. I'm sure they do. But you don't think, Moab was really a fencing team. No, so I want Albuquerque first saying, they have a good fencing team. They have a good fencing team. That's
and I think one club, one program can really make a huge difference if the resources are there. But we see in the city as well that there are elementary schools that have programs, there are summer programs. People are interested in that. You actually started some of those programs. And so there's a developing interest in it. And one thing I would love to see is that as we get fencing programs that are really strong here, we can get other schools on board in New Mexico. There's a club in Santa Fe, and that we can incorporate it into the state's athletic association. That's in a state like New Mexico, doing things like that are easy. You kind of just have to ask. You just have to say, we've got a couple of programs. We'd like to formalize this. And then being able to say hey, right now I'm the state champion of New Mexico in FA. That'll make a big difference in kids' college careers. I will halt New Mexico for one aspect, which is that it's not a California, it's not a New York. It's a lot easier to stand out on the stage in a place like New Mexico. And there are smart people who are figuring that out. There are smart people who are saying, all right, what's the SAT required to be a National Merit Scholar in New Mexico versus Massachusetts? What's the expectation to be a state level champion on this state versus that state? And there is also a strategic focus to being in New Mexico. Our kids are going to shine a lot brighter from an earlier point.
That's great. Well, I want to we're gonna end it there, and I want to say thank you to both of you, and we'll put a link to your website in the show notes of this episode. And just want to say, Courtney, Chris, thank you for your time today. And I think it's clear that the pathway through fencing and the power of fencing is just so strong at Menaul and anywhere to set students up for success at college and beyond. And what's happening there at Menaul is a testament to this. And Courtney, you yourself are as well. So thank you both so much, and good luck the rest of the year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.